Okay. Perfect. So we'll get started. I suppose more people start to funnel in here, but I do not want to go over time. So we will go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to this quarterly Customer Connect event. We're going to be talking about version 14.5. For those of you who I've not met with in a while, my name is Stevie Prugar. I'm a customer success engineer here at NetBeez. I've been with the company for now 5 years, and I'm very excited to talk about not only 14.5, but some of the other projects we've been working on and also what to expect later on in 2025. So the agenda today is going to be mostly threefold. The first is going to be the daily remote worker report. We're going to go into the scoring system a bit on how we developed it, as well as how it looks and how it's applied. We're going to touch upon our improvements to speed testing, and then we're going to finish off with a brand new feature utilizing AI. Yes, I know those are buzzwords, but is it truly actually using large language models and algorithm, the alerting summaries. So let's talk about the first part, which is remote working. Even in 2025, a bulk of our customers are still either working hybrid or fully remote. And about half of the issues that their users are seeing are either ISP or Wi-Fi. And the other half are a mix of a bunch of other things. And most of the issues that get raised go straight to network engineering, but are often not the responsibility of network engineering. So slow ISP, that is on the user. Wi-Fi network, also on the user. Endpoint resources is usually going to be on a desktop team. Application issues are generally going to be responsibility of the application owner. And then VPN, usually network engineering. And then there's going to be a bunch of miscellaneous things. Some may or may not fall on the network engineering team. But typically, about 1 out of 9, 1 out of 10 times, it is not something that network engineering is either responsible for or capable of solving because they are just not related to their job function. So the new daily remote worker report is going to capture things like endpoint performance, Wi-Fi connectivity, ISP performance, and basically tailor everything to what's a good experience and what's a bad experience. So the first thing we look at is things like what we're doing now, right, with Zoom or WebEx or Teams. And we're trying to figure out, okay, what is a poor performance for a user? And what we came up with is if 10% of the time a user's MOS score is below 4.0, that's not ideal. The MOS score is going to be a combination of like packet loss and jitter and a few other metrics, and a perfect score is a 4.4. And most scores you're going to see are going to be like 4.3 something to 4.4. You're really not going to see much below 4.3 in a good experience, right? So this is a 15-minute Zoom call that somebody was on. And in that 15 minutes, we saw 5 significant drops with a couple less significant drops. One of them went below 2.0 MOS. The jitter spiked to almost 300. We had a lot of spikes, nearly 100 in the jitter. And you can see packet loss was over 5%, which is way too high. I mean, a good packet loss is going to be like at worst 0.1% or lower. And that's really what you kind of shoot for, especially when it comes to something as critical as voice and video communication. So in this case, in this 15-minute period, the average MOS score is 3.9. The jitter average was over 50 milliseconds. This is a poor experience. If you looked at this, you would most likely get feedback from the user that either people are complaining they were cutting out a couple times, 5, 10 seconds at a time, or that other people were cutting out. Another stat we started looking at was CPU. So we looked at memory as well because we look at CPU memory and disk utilization. And ultimately, we sell on CPU, and here's why. So this is my laptop, 16 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, 16 threads. It's very powerful for day-to-day work. And you can see my memory, even though I have 16 gigs, is at 70% with just Chrome, Zoom, Slack, Teams is running in the background, and that's it. Windows has a habit of putting a lot of things in page file. So looking at high memory utilization we decided just didn't make a lot of sense. The CPU utilization is going to be where you're going to see a lot of crashing in times that people are often going to attribute to, it could be the application, it's the network. So that's why we looked at, okay, if your CPU average is above 70% for a 24-hour period, that's bad. We definitely feel anything higher than that. And honestly, in my opinion, even 70% is a pretty high bar, because that means that there's often spikes higher than 70, which could attribute to bad user experience. Um, Another thing we looked at is Wi-Fi metrics for remote workers. So we developed a scoring system, and the scoring system is not just taking the raw numbers, like we actually have an internal scoring system that's normalized, and we weight it, right? So signal strength is worth 40%, link quality is worth 30%, packet loss is 20%, reconnection is 10%, and everything's normalized. And when we add together, if the number is below 60, then we're going to report that as a bad Wi-Fi. So it was originally 50, and we actually recently changed it to 60, because we thought 50 was not an accurate representation of a good Wi-Fi connection. And then we looked at ISP performance for remote workers. So we looked at a lot of our customers that have very strict SLA requirements for things like video and voice. And the number that came up a lot was 25 megabits per second download was like absolute minimum for like video conferencing. We saw a mix of 3 to 10 upload, and we ultimately settled with 3 for the time being. But even so, how the metric works is if it's below, if you're getting 10% of your speed test are below this metric, that's indication of it's just not enough throughput to be able to sustain just daily workload. So that's going to be triggered as bad. So when we bring this all together, this is the top section of the remote worker report that we have. You'll see you have the ISP, you have the Wi-Fi, and you have CPU. We have good, bad, and none. None means that there was nothing detected. So for Wi-Fi, you were hardwired the whole time. And then the next part of the report is going to be aggregated averages for all of your remote worker agents for each application of monitoring over a 24-hour period, as well as things like time and incidents, and number of incidents in that period. And then this is the whole report. So you can see the top part's going to talk about the VoIP scoring, how many agents you have deployed, how many agents have a poor VoIP score. Do note we are looking to add in the future the ability to alert based off of jitter and MOS. So that actually is on the roadmap for consideration. And then you have the breakdown I saw about earlier with ISP, Wi-Fi, and CPU per remote agent. And then all the targets you're monitoring with your remote agents, aggregated averages for each application, and if they've gone up or down based off of the up arrow or down arrow. So these will go out to all users on a daily basis. You can change this though. So if you go to the report section, it is called the Daily Remote Worker Status Report, or RWA for short. You can pause it, you can edit it. You can say do weekly reports. So let's just say you want to do it on a Monday at 9 a.m. So that way you don't want to get daily, you want to get it weekly, for example, right? And then you can add distribution list or other users on here to get it. So it is customizable in that regard. Or if you need to pause it for any period of time, you can just pause the report and resume it whenever you want to start getting that report again. So that is a quick overview of the daily remote worker agent report. A couple other updates we've done before we go into the AI work. For speed test, we added the ability to run against a custom server. So for example, a lot of our ISP customers have their own NDT speed test, and they want to be able to verify, especially verify the SLAs they put up for their customers. So now they can actually specify, let's run against our server. We also have a few customers that are not ISPs that do this as well. So they're very happy about that. But if you're still widespread across a region or a country or a whole continent, you definitely want to probably do auto select in that case, because it's going to try to select the closest. The other update we did was we added Cloudflare. So now we have NDT, which is backed by Google, Fast.com, which is Netflix, and then Cloudflare. So We have always been looking to expand our speed test. If you have any other suggestions for other speed test options, definitely let us know. I'll actually put some information at the end about how to make some suggestions and recommendations. Now, this is probably the bread and butter of the presentation. Companies love to use the word AI, machine learning, and all this stuff. And it's something that we have worked on for a couple years now. This is not a situation where we decide the last 3 months we need to jump on the AI bandwagon, let's throw something together and call it that. This is something that's been in the works since, I want to say 22, but I definitely know 23. So it's been over 2 years. It's been a project that some of our development teams are working on steadily, and they finally brought it to the whole development team to release. So while we are constantly going to be tweaking and iterating on this, this has been released in a finished state. I want to point out the second note here, which is root cause analysis and correlation. That is, to me, the bread and butter of what this feature does. NetBeez produces a lot of data. Most of our customer dashboards are producing probably over 10 million data points on a daily basis on average. And sometimes that data is very easily understood, right? And I'll give you an example of one that is very easily understood. So we go to targets. We have an ongoing incident with NestCam. We can see all 9 agents cannot connect to either one. This is a problem with these 2 Nest cameras. I happen to know the IP addresses have changed. I've reset the router so the DHCP server assigned a new IP addresses, right? So I need to update these. Very simple. Most network engineers and most even level 1 help desk support will probably be able to figure that out. The problem becomes when something becomes multifaceted and it's affecting different systems differently. Sometimes you have a lot of different information and you have to start piecing things together between NetBeez and other systems that you're using. So that's where the root cause analysis and correlations are really going to come in handy. We're gonna summarize the issue. We're gonna give you actual recommendations. It's currently available on 14.5, so it is live. It's using OpenAI large language model using GPT-40 mini. That is subject to change, so do keep that in mind. And this is in like 4 to 5 different places. So I'm gonna go through a couple of them. I'll show you mine. Mine's not showing anything, and I'll explain why. When you go to your agents, one of your agents, and you click on it and you click on this little brain button, that's going to send all of the information the last 24 hours to our algorithm using OpenAI to spit out a bunch of useful information. It's going to summarize everything. It's going to give you potential causes and recommended solutions, right? Anything that is more than 24 hours old is not going to be considered. And the reason for that is the exact reason or the exact example that I have, which is if you look at any of my agents and click on the summary, you can see that these 2 agents have been in alert status for 2.5 months. That's how long I've yet to update the IP addresses of the 2 Nest cameras. So it's going to give you a summary. If there is an issue, it'll give you kind of start time and end time. It'll give you a summary, potential causes, if there's anything related to it. So it's going to correlate this to any other issues. And then it's going to give a whole host of recommended solutions. In the case of if nothing's wrong with it, or like, for example, if somebody looked, it's like, oh my God, like we have 2 red, what do we do? This is going to tell you that, in conclusion, it's stable. There's no immediate concerns because it knows that if we have ignored this for 2.5 months, that we're not concerned about it. We only want to know what's in the now, and that's where that comes in at. Targets works fundamentally the same way, right? It's going to give you details of the last 24 hours. It's going to summarize it. It's going to talk about potential causes. And some of these causes include things like DNS or configuration issues or routing issues. So it's going to go pretty detailed. And then solutions, check to make sure this DNS record is, has an update or this IP address needs to be updated, et cetera. We have it in the incident summary section. What's cool about this is that it's going to talk about the key alerts that triggered the incident. And I thought this was really neat. So this says, noted an increase in ping failure rates leading to the service degradation across various applications. So what that's saying is they notice packet loss started to increase, RTT started to increase before it started to fail entirely. And if you start seeing that more and more, maybe you want to set performance alerts to let you know that things are starting to degrade. You can do it based off of a baseline, so you don't have to worry about too many false positives. It's a suggestion. But yeah, it can really help you make some configuration changes to find things sooner. And then again, it'll give possible solutions. The alert summary. So if you go under here and then you open up this is going to pull up the 1,800 alerts and analyze them. This one's going to be a little bit longer because this is going to cover basically everything that has happened in the last 24 hours, up to 1,800 different events. So it's going to have like multiple stages of summary and suggestions to fix and root causes and stuff like that. So you can see here, it kind of labels them one, and then we have two, three, four. So it kind of breaks it down by each section. So you can see here when this one started. So we had a bunch of my agents were unable to reach access to cameras and TVs. Let me see, how do I have these labeled? Cameras and TVs. I like the fact that it removes the word Nest cameras and then just says cameras and TVs. It's one thing I really like about AI is it simplifies some things that sometimes would be a little confusing. Sorry, I jumped out of that. I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, it's going to break it down by section. So you will get a lot more information when you pull it from the alert section versus say the agent or the target section where it's just going to isolate the things that happened to that specific target or that specific agent. Um, so yeah, so you can see even here, it's a little different because it's updated. So Salesforce connectivity issues, bandwidth issues with the remote worker agent because they were running slow. Unreachable ICMP hosts, that's my TV and cameras. VPN issues. They've noticed some timeouts. Other ICMP issues. I guess, oh wow, oh, you know why? Because it does 1,800. So this is actually going back pretty far. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, we have the Wi-Fi section. This one's needs a little bit more tuning, so do keep this in mind. We have done a lot of updates since this presentation was made about a month and a half ago. So I made a couple tweaks to it already from the last time we presented this. But it's going to pull information the last 24 hours. It's going to look at WPA subcant logs, DHCP logs, to figure out what was causing some of the disconnect issues. But we're definitely still working on iterating on this. So what's next? The remote worker agent daily summary report or daily remote worker agent report. We're still tuning this. This is a very much a tunable thing on our side, both from the metrics and how the report looks. So if you've been getting these reports and there's something you think would do better, you can email my team at success@netbeez.net or post on a community page. The Dashboard Next project is really far underway. I can't commit to any time frame that it's going to be released. The goal is still the summer. By the end of summer is where we would like to release it at. That is subject to change. But it is, I just want to iterate, it's a brand new dashboard. It's a new database, it's a new backend, we're moving from time series to time scale. The front end, everything, almost everything's completely changed. We're doing things like, we look at historical data, multiple different targets on the same agent. Whenever you switch the time frame, it'll switch it for all of them. So we're making a lot of changes there. The actual like agent tab, for example, columns are going to be expandable and retractable, and I think you'll be able to move the order a bit. We're updating the scaling to make more sense. We're updating how the bar looks. The bars will be collapsible on the left. So we're doing a lot of those things. It's really going to modernize things. The one thing that's not changing is just how it flows. I think we're keeping that by and large the same because a lot of people are used to it. The graphing's going to look maybe just a little different. Some things might move around a little bit, but it is going to come out as one big release. And I guess it's going to be 15, but I don't know exactly what version we're going to call it. But that is still slated to come out in the summer. And then with AI summaries, we're still tuning it. We're constantly making adjustments to it on the back end. because it's never going to be perfect, but we want to make it as good as we can make it. We're looking to add more data into payloads, so more than 800 alerts. We're looking to add more summary types to the dashboard, as well as adding ability to make API calls to pull these. And then another thing we want to do is take our algorithm and be able to use other large language models. We know that OpenAI may not be suitable for everybody, but they want to use the feature. So if you have other OpenAI models that you use, or private ones in particular, well, I guess other AI models, I say, or private ones in particular, we'd be interested to see if we can integrate into those as well. We know there's a lot of regulations around these, and you might have a specific one you want to use over OpenAI. And if there are ones, please let us know, and we'll try to see how we can work on integrating that. And that is going to be it. I've gone for about 20 minutes, so I will cut it off here and I'll open up for any questions. If I can't answer anything, or if there's something I can't answer, I will follow up in my follow-up email in the next couple days, from include answers from my team as well.
Stevie, thanks for the
Stevie,
presentation.
No
I
problem.
I might be getting a little feedback on my voice. It seems to have subsided now. The the one suggestion, I guess, for a remote worker agent is to if the agent can pull out physical interface error statistics. I run one on Mac OS device. Now it looks like you can get at errors with the netstat command, and I don't know if the agent can pull out interface errors from that command, but I mentioned it to you in that email. This particular device is on 10 gigabit, 10G base T on substandard copper cabling, and of interest for scenarios like this, on I guess on a larger scale across our campus, is where how we're going to be able to detect clients over leveraging the physical cable plant, where we might be able to see errors, yes, from the side of our switching infrastructure, but also from the perspective of a client device itself by way of the remote worker agent. Just something that occurred to me as you were talking about suggestions for that.
Yeah, I remember that might fizz out. So yeah, let me send it over to Panos and Panicos again, to try to get some additional feedback. Because I do remember you actually reaching out. It might have gotten lost and a couple other things you
It,
asked about.
well, it,
So
it wasn't a request or anything. It was just an observation
yeah,
that I had. Yeah.
no, definitely. We definitely want to, if we can pull the information, and get it to you in some way. If and this goes for anything we do, we definitely want to be able to do that. So that's always one of our focuses. So yeah, I will pull that email and check and then send it over to the team. Appreciate it. And Toron, did you have a question or suggestion or anything of the sort?
Stevie, I don't, but I was gonna ask, were you gonna send out the deck?
Yes, so I'm going to send out the deck and the recording, to everybody that I send the invite to, which is quite a few people. Probably, I would say in the next 2 or 3 days, I should send it out to everybody.
Thanks, sounds good.
So, no problem. Yeah, awesome. So I will kill the recording here.